Good evening, everyone, and welcome into the large program Tigers Tonight. I'm your host, John Maddox, joined as always by the best co-host. Sorry, y'all, it's been a day. Co-host in all the land, Larry Marley in the palatial Marley Manor here in Hernando, Mississippi. Mr. Marley, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm actually at home. So, no, it was a great opening weekend, and I hope everybody enjoyed football. We had football basically from Thursday till last night. And if you didn't enjoy that, then you're probably not American. Probably.
Well, what was played last night? I don't know that I would classify that as FBS football. Looking at you, North Carolina, but let's now look to our northern office up there, Mr. Brian Moss. Brian, how are you, sir?
Holding it down up here in New York. There's chill in the air, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, we're allegedly supposed to cool off. It's been hot, and part of my deal is our downstairs air conditioner didn't work from Thursday until today. So we have that going for us. Yeah. All right. So as Larry said, we got through the first weekend, the first true, no offense to week zero, but the first real weekend of college football. And of course, that included a Memphis 45-10 win over the Chattanooga Mocs. Now, we had a whole discussion in the press box. This is critical information. What do you think, Brian? We'll start with you. What do you think the Mocs are named after?
I have no idea. I mean,
Larry?
their logo is what, a little choo-choo guy train. So that's something like that. That's what I would figure.
No,
Larry?
and I only know this because my daughter was thinking about going to UTC. It's a bird. And and it's I think it's the bird that's like known
It's
to be
Tennessee
around
State. The Tennessee State bird is the mockingbird,
right, the mockingbird.
and so it's the Mocs. But my first thought was, Brian, you wouldn't get this, but snakes, water moccasins, are very prevalent here in the South,
Right.
and a snake, a venomous snake, just seems a lot more intimidating than a bird that I could hold in my hand. But I digress. Anyway. All right, so Memphis won, and regardless of whether it was a bird or a snake, Memphis picked up the W. And Brian, start with you. What is one of the things that really jumped off the page at you?
To me, just how efficient Brendan Lewis was. We got to see him throw. We got to see him run. He made good decisions. I know it was, against a lower level opponent, but decision making is what I was looking for. And you didn't see, or at least I can't remember a bad decision by him. So for me, that's the first thing that stands out is, his first start at Memphis. I mean, his grade was just phenomenal. When you take a look at the Pro Football Focus, I think they graded him as a 4-star performance. But yeah, I mean, great performance by him. He was the first thing that stood out to me.
Larry?
Well, defensively, just how physical Memphis was. This reminded me very much of the defense we saw last year in the season opening win. Running, getting to the football, tackling. Now, again, I understand it's a lesser opponent, but we are comparing apples to apples when we think about last year's opening day game win, and just swarming to the football and how well they played, especially against the run in the first half. They just absolutely shut UTC down. They had nowhere to go with the football. So I thought defensively, I thought it was very impressive. One of the things when against a lesser opponent, when you get way up, and we were up, I think 35-3 or something like that, you can let down a little bit, and yet the defense. I think we gave up a late touchdown. That was it in the second half, and I just thought defensively they looked. I'm not going to say they're as good as last year because I don't think that's probably true, but I do think physically, especially up front, they were as good as they were last year.
I think that's fair. For me, what jumped off the page was Brendan Lewis's running ability. And now we knew he was a more of a running quarterback. So we had a long discussion about this at the press conference on Monday. And by the way, hope everybody had a good Labor Day. There's a huge difference between a running quarterback and a mobile quarterback. Brendan is a running quarterback. He's not just mobile. He's not just enough to escape out the side door. He can hurt you with his legs, as he showed on that long touchdown run he had. So I think this adds a dimension to Memphis's offense, because we had heard he could run. We had heard, oh, he's a good runner. He's a good runner. Well, I think he was as good as advertised, frankly. And then, of course, you said it, be the efficiency in the passing game, 22 of 28. 3 of those were drops. 1 of those was a throwaway, and the other one was an interception that was as a result of a busted protection, and he took a hit. Mike, we've been trying to think about that. Mike asked a great question here. We haven't had a running quarterback since, Billy Bearfield? Would you consider him running?
Dude, I could outrun Billy Bearfield.
But he not on that block he got on that long touchdown that D'Angelo had against UTEP.
Okay.
Maybe was, but now keep in mind, and Jeb, I'm sure, still has the counter going.
Kitten Evans.
I think Bearfield was probably more of a runner than that. But keep in mind, why the other reason this is such a challenge. Absolutely, it's if you haven't seen what we're talking about, just go to the YouTube search, D'Angelo Williams UTEP. I want to say it was 02, I think. And there's this great run that it's the best run I've seen in person before. And Billy Bearfield just comes flying down the field and just absolutely clocks this poor guy from UTEP and sprung D'Angelo for the touchdown.
I think it was 2005, actually, but it really doesn't matter. But the point is,
Jeb had this running count for a long time. One of the reasons this is such a challenge is, I want to say, like, it's this absurd number up until Paxton. It was like 18 different guys played quarterback for Memphis over like 10 seasons.
Yeah.
So it gets to be really challenging to count the guys. But
right,
Ryan, I do think this sort of unlocks maybe part of the Memphis offense, especially for Coach Cramsey, that now he can do even more things like true RPOs. I want to get into that in a second, but like true RPOs, straight up quarterback runs. I think this kind of opens the playbook up.
Yeah, and it's a different time, but the last time Memphis quarterback led the team in rushing and passing in the same year was, you want to take a wild guess on the year? You may not probably guess the quarterback.
I heard it in passing, 2011.
No, I'll have to recheck my stats then, because I wrote an article. Let's see, when was this?
For the year, not for the game, right?
For the year, for the whole year. 1990, Keith Benton led the Tigers in passing with 1265 and rushing with 612 yards for the whole season.
I don't think that will happen this year.
No.
But I do think when you look at, like I said, what he said, and for all my announcers out there, if you're an announcer, why am I blurred out?
Yeah,
here?
I was wondering about that. You look good.
You're being very offensive. We had to blur you out.
Yeah. Not the first time, won't be the last. As long as you can hear me, that's all that matters. This is probably an improvement from the visual perspective. To all my announcers out there, just because a quarterback fakes a handoff inside, it's not an RPO. Let me say that again. It's not an RPO. I see that all the time. We did see, Larry, some actual real RPO.
Yes.
And kind of the dead giveaway of that is when the quarterback fakes and then he kind of just automatically swings outside and throws. You almost never see a long pass off an RPO. But just this unlocks something, I think, for Memphis.
Well, and I'll tell a really brief story. When we were playing Tennessee State back in the day, I do not remember the name of the quarterback, but he came to Memphis and was at Memphis for Jeb probably remembers. This was 91, 92, something like that. He had played at Westwood. Anyway, he went to Tennessee State. That was the first time I ever saw an RPO, an actual
Quentin
RPO.
Evans.
Yes, that's it, Evans. That's right. Anyway, he would go out and exactly what you said, John. He could cut it up and he makes it. It's an option, is what it is. It's an option. You're optioning either the safety or the cornerback. Okay, because you're basically making that guy pick between you and the receiver. And that's what a true RPO. We really haven't been doing that too much. What we've been doing is sort of it's really not even an RPO, really, because there was no run option on that other than to hand off, right? But there was never going to be a run from the quarterback. So, John, to your point, now you can actually see him, and he's optioning either the outside linebacker or the safety every single time. He's making that guy pick. I thought it was enlightening to see when we did fake, the handoff. He would actually cut it outside instead of immediately turning up, which that stretches the defense even further. This week is going to be really interesting to me to see if they open that up, John, to see if they do if he fakes the RPO, steps back and looks across the middle, stuff like that. That's where you really are going to start seeing those linebackers stretched, because now you can look at, and actually he did do that on one play. He got flushed and he came back across the middle to the tight end, and you could see how stretched those tight ends or the linebackers were.
Yeah, sorry. I think I've pretty much lost my camera. So
That's okay.
you guys get to stare at the black screen. Actually, you can just stare at my beautiful face. That should tide everyone over. Yeah, I think that, that's one of the things to me anyway that this unlocks like what you're talking about, straight quarterback runs. You can call a QB draw on 3rd and 16. You can do a read. The other one that always seems to get confused is the read option. Just because he fakes it the first man through doesn't mean it's a read option, but you can run a lot more read option. You can run some actual, what we call out of the shotgun, you call it speed option around the pistol. So this really opens things up. And then especially when you consider you may have it at times, you had this a couple times on Saturday until he got hurt, you're going to have Sutton Smith, Greg DeRosier, and Brendan Lewis on the field at the same time. So you've got so many options that reverses and the little push passes and all that. It opens up so much for your offense to be able to trust your quarterback to run the football, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we see quarterbacks, and I love Seth, and I'm thankful for him, but he ran out of necessity 95% of the time. He needed to run. Well, now, Mike just took my thunder there about Seth. But now, there were a couple times I was just flipping through some old highlights, and the Liberty Bowl, Seth pulled it, and it was a design QB run. You could do that some, but you can do that more now, right? Because you've got a guy that is a dangerous guy with the ball in his hands when he gets outside, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm excited to see what this offense is going to be this year. There's just a lot of threats on the field. If Memphis can get some play out of the wide receivers, it's weird to think that the wide receiver core is the weak link of the offense. But if you can get a couple of wide receivers to really step up and prove that they can be relied upon, man, this offense is just going to be fantastic to watch.
Yeah, and I do want to say that, of course, Greg DeLosier went down in the second quarter, with an apparent foot injury, and there was a lot of consternation about that because he didn't come back in the game. And post game, Coach Silfield said, "Well, that was my decision not to bring him back. There was no, there's no need really." That's not really what he said, but that's kind of what he intimated. And then when Sutton was asked about it, he said, "Yeah, Greg's good. He'll be back." So, and then of course he's on the depth chart today. But now, as we found out in past years, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah.
But I was one guy. How about Frank Peasant that came off the bench, kind of that next man up, and broke off that long, nice 18-yard run, and then that was the play right before. So I think it was like he gained 22 yards. It put Memphis at the 22. There was 2:22 left in the quarter, and then Brendan Lewis scored from 22 yards out. So, but it was Peasant. He had 6 carries for 61 yards, 10 yards a carry.
Not bad.
I'm not a coach, but I think if I were, I would take that. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, so he's a senior, right? So he's a senior transfer, and so you look at that at your three running backs, right? They're all experienced. Rosier's obviously a sophomore, Sutton's a junior, and you got a senior. I mean, we've got a nice trio of running backs who you can look to. One of the things, like last year, guys, John, we talked about this extensively last year. When Sutton early on, until DeRosier sort of developed a little bit into the offense. And now I think we're fairly confident that if we lose one of those guys, let's hope it doesn't happen. But if it does, I think we've got enough depth. You've also got Bodiford there, right? I mean, and I think we've got enough depth there that we can look to not have the same sort of drop off that we had last year, because we did. There was a stretch there, if you'll recall, when we played USF and Rice and Middle Tennessee, where you could see that the offense was not clicking, and that was because of the law. I believe because of the loss of Sutton Smith.
Well, you had an offense that was pretty much predicated on Sutton last year,
right?
And when he goes down, that creates a problem. You mentioned Bodiford. Brian, dare I say, we have the new Brandon Thomas.
Yep.
Because, that's the situation he was put in, and he was successful. He had 3 carries. He needed 1 yard each time, and he ended up with 3 carries for 3 yards. So, and that's what you do. You have to have role players. One of the other things is Memphis had 10 different people catch the football. And Dorsey had 4 catches for 16 yards and should have had another one. Like Brendan, that first TD drop. I mean, Brendan just put the biscuit in the basket with that one. And, but Dorsey struggled. But you know what? Braham came off the bench and had 3 for 52 yards. Hawkins had 3 for 42. Christian Ross got involved a little bit in the passing game. Bussey got involved. Matt Adcock got involved. Brady Cluse got involved. And I think that is, and I asked Brendan about that in the post game, and he was kind of evasive about it, but it's like, that's got to feel good, right? To have 10 different guys catch at least one pass in a game. And so now the pressure's even off of you more, because although I do think you'll have to develop this at some point, and honestly, it's probably Braham if we're taking odds. He didn't have to have a guy. You know what I mean? He didn't have to have a guy because the game wasn't close. But there's going to come a time, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, there's going to come a time where Memphis is down 27-24 with 3 minutes to go in the fourth period or the fourth quarter. It's 3rd and 7 from their own 23, and it's a gotta get. He's going to have somebody that's the gotta get guy. So, that's maybe something I think that's still out there. I thought Spedick did a great job kicking.
I was just going to say him.
7 of 8
and it
touchbacks.
wasn't close. Like
No,
everything
well,
was dead down the middle. Like that. Look, the, you guys know I don't like kickers. I still don't. But he was dead down the middle. Like, and as a player, you go out there, you don't want drama. Go out there, kick the freaking field goal, and get off the field. And he was 6 for 6. It wasn't even close. Dead down the middle. There wasn't any drama with any of it. And hey, that's what you're looking for. And the punter kid averaged 54 yards. And we were talking last week. He'd never been on a field before.
Well,
So
I think he only punted once, I think, or twice. Twice, yeah. But 54 yards, Australian rules. But Ryan, I thought it was a pretty good complete game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like Memphis showed a lot, which we talked about that. Memphis was not going to put a bunch of stuff on tape. There's one of two things: is you either put everything on tape or you don't show anything. And Memphis kind of chose the latter there. But I thought it was a pretty complete game from Memphis.
Yep.
They, Chattanooga hit a couple big plays. Let's see.
But that's expected. You can't, I guess you can't really expect Memphis to totally shut things down. But, in the grand scheme of things, when you take a look back, 45-10, that's pretty dominating. Chattanooga only had, 232 yards?
Right.
And of that, they gained 59 yards on 3 passing plays,
right,
and 82 yards on 6 running plays. So that's 140 of their 232 yards came on 9 plays. We were very clean. That's
right. And I'd be honest with you. The fact that one thing I'm very excited about, we had the one turnover, which you pointed out was primarily due to, a busted blocking, which we talked about that last week. New center, a lot of new work pieces up front. We only had, he was pressured some, but really not that much, and we only had the one turnover. Guys, with all those new players, we didn't put the ball on the ground. Knock on wood. I just thought you could not have asked for a cleaner opening game with given all the new pieces that we've got.
It's a pretty clean opening game period.
Yeah.
If you look at it, UTC turned it over a little bit, but
that second one, was it just 2 penalties as well?
Between the two teams, 6 penalties for 70 yards. That's really clean for an opening game. And like Jeb said, you didn't see a bunch of busted coverages, and this was true kind of either way. Memphis just had better athletes. No, and we didn't have a lot of coaching turnover, and that shows. So even when you lose a bunch of players, if you have staff consistency, that helps. But it was real. The two teams went 5 for 5 inside the red zone. 6 penalties total.
With 5 of 9 on first down. On third down.
You hold Chattanooga to 2 of 12 on third down. So, it was one of those very clean games. And the only kind of knock, and I'm still not convinced it was on purpose, although they acted like it was the opening kickoff when the Chattanooga kicker kicked it. And I think he was trying to line drive it, but he kind of topped it a little bit and it just rolled over and it hit Brady Cluse's foot. But even after that's going to happen. You're going to get bounces. The refs were hot too. They wanted to keep things rolling. Yeah, it was hot. It wasn't humid. So I'll give that. It wasn't human, but it was hot. But that was really the only that and the big busted protection that caused the interception. But even still, that's a shot. Brendan's got to eat that. Brendan can't, when he sees that happen, he can't just chunk it in the air. He's got to eat that one. And, he has said repeatedly this offseason that nobody will be harder on Brendan Lewis than Brendan Lewis. He is incredibly hard on himself, almost to the point sometimes. Well, Jeb says it was on purpose. I was way up in the stadium, and frankly, my glasses weren't on, so I kind of missed it. But yeah, and it was one of those things. I think that he was waiting for somebody to sorry, I'm trying to do three things here. He was waiting for somebody to turn and run, and when he saw Brady Clues turn and run, he popped it over that way. But that kind of stuff happens. It's just, it is what it is, but that's the thing. Now, are other teams going to pick up on that? So just kind of is what it is, I guess. And thankfully, but then, we were neglectful. We were talking about special teams. How about Big Whit blocking the field goal as a result of that series, that first Chattanooga series, where they go down and they go to kick the field goal, and Whitlow not only blocks it, but returns it as well. And that kind of, I think, set the tone for the entirety of the game. But, we can debate the little stuff all day, but 1-0 beats the hell out of 0-1.
Correct.
If you don't
like
believe
last
me,
year, just keep winning.
Ask Alabama. Sorry, I had to get that one in there. But so Memphis again, 45-10 winners. Other than DeWosier, no, and we don't. Just being real, we don't know how hurt he is. We will know that before the FAU game, because this year they have to do injury reports. But I think even then it's like 2 hours before kickoff.
Yeah, 2 hours before kickoff.
But they're
no later than. They could do it earlier, but no later than.
Yeah, we'll get it when we walk in the stadium. But all right, so that puts wraps on this week. And before we get into Georgia State, we have decided to allow the great prognosticator Eric Procius with MemphisWeather.net back because he did such a pretty good job on Saturday. He did the typical weatherman 50-50 thing. He got the humidity right, but not the temperature. It was warm, Eric. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty warm. But that was a forecast that it seemed like every day it went from 84 to 85 to 86 to 88. So, but great weather on Saturday, nice little breeze. So can't complain. So we thought we'd have you back this week.
Well, I appreciate you giving me a second chance. It's good to go into week 2 and have the next opportunity. I didn't quite get straight down the uprights like the great kicker did, but that's all right. We'll try again. And you've thrown me
the biggest improvement is always from week 1 to week 2.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And especially when you're going away and forecasting for a place that I don't forecast for every day. So we're looking at Atlanta we head downstream here to Georgia State. I've learned something today that they play in the old Turner Field, which is now called Center Park Stadium. So cool place to play. And I hope some Tiger fans are headed down there because it looks like it's going to be a pretty good day. It will be warm. I'm not going to start off in the mid 80s this time. We're just going to say it's going to be 90 degrees in the afternoon. There could be a couple of thunderstorms around during the afternoon. They've got a front that'll be hanging around there. That front's moving through here too on Saturday. Slight chance of thunderstorms if you're staying around here, but it's going to mark the beginning of another drier and slightly cooler stretch for us. But down there in Georgia, it looks like as we get to kickoff, those showers will kind of start falling apart. Maybe a couple around in the area around kickoff time, which is 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. over there in Georgia. 83 degrees is expected temperature at that time. With the light northwest wind, shouldn't cause any problems for the kicking game. And then as we go into the evening, a few clouds lingering, but temperatures dropping into the 70s as we head towards the end of the game. So overall, not too bad. Again, it's early September and it is the South, so we're not expecting 50s or 60s, of course.
Yeah, I want to thank you before we wrap up with you here. I want to thank you for the rain today. That was a lovely gift here in Hernando. We got quite a bit of rain this morning, and we've desperately needed it.
Well, I'm glad somebody got some. I'm now well over a month since I've had 1/10 of an inch, and it's definitely showing. So,
yeah. All right. Well, tell everybody how they can follow you all week.
Yeah, sure. Social media is the best place to find us. We're Memphis Weather 1, Memphis Weather, the number 1 on all of your favorite social channels. And a quick plug also for the redesigned website. We redid this summer, and it's also mobile friendly. So you can actually make it into a mobile app on your phone, get all the latest updates from us, the forecast, the radar, everything. Go to www.memphisweather.net. Get all of your information there for the Memphis area. Appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, and we're going to challenge you a little more next week with Troy, Alabama. I promise you that. Get you a little more off your game.
I'm going to get out my old map book and see if I can figure out where that place is.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
MemphisWeather.net, Eric Procius with the forecast. So it doesn't look like the weather is going to be a factor as Memphis goes to Georgia State But before we get into kind of the specifics of the game, one thing that Coach Silverfield talked about is he talked to the Vanderbilt staff. That's a weird place to play because of the configuration of the stadium. And this is also the remake of the 2017 game where Memphis was supposed to go down there. But pile on another reason to hate UCF, that whole fiasco with the hurricane where they let Memphis fly down there and then fly back. And so we had to reschedule UCF and push this game off. So finally, we're getting this game out of the way. I think even though it's a road game against a Sun Belt team, I think one thing that probably, Brian, makes the staff happy is this is an area that has been historically, recruiting-wise, has been very, very good to Memphis. Even thinking back to guys like Mo Avery, this has historically been one of our kind of bellwether areas for recruiting. And so this is a good chance to maybe put the product in front of some kids that you're recruiting in that area.
Oh, most definitely. And I know schools do this because they do it to Memphis. If a kid, if they're recruiting a kid in that area, they'll tell that kid, hey, contact Georgia State, tell them you want to visit. And so really they're visiting Georgia State, but they're really there to look at Memphis. So, I mean, it's just the recruiting chess match that they play. So yeah, expect some visitors to go to or some recruits to visit Georgia State, but they're really going to be looking at Memphis. And Georgia, I mean, it's a hotbed around the Atlanta area. There's plenty of talent in that area. And Georgia is just another one of those states, I mean, not as heavily recruited as California or Texas, but to me, I think it's a top 10 state. I mean, there's a lot of talent there, and it's a close enough drive too for parents. And the ESPN deal is great, but as a parent, you want to see your kid live. You want to be in person, and Memphis is not that far away. And now that you're playing in Atlanta, so the parents of the kids, Georgia kids, they get to see them, a lot closer. I mean, it's a big plus. So I don't mind Memphis playing teams like this, but you just don't want to have your whole schedule, your whole out of conference schedule lined up with this. But once every great while, yeah, I mean it's nice that a kid can say I'm going to play in my home state.
Well, how about this? AJ Hill, Warner Robins, Sutton Smith, Powder Springs. I'm just glancing here. Brady Cluse is from Acworth. Just keep going down the list here. Parker Peterson, right tackle. Alpharetta, looking defensively. And I'm glancing at the two deep. Everett Rusau is from Atlanta itself. He, transferred in from UAB. Let's see. Joey Hunter, also on the one of the safeties on the depth chart. DeMarco Ward, who had the pick six from Duluth. Ian Williams, Cartersville, Georgia. So that just goes to show what I'm saying here is, that is an area that Memphis has been really, really good for a very long time at recruiting. And Brian, certainly you don't insinuate that there are recruiting shenanigans that go on. And but think about that's a great way to not break a rule,
yes,
to get yourself in front of it, to get a kid in front of you, is to say, hey, yeah, I know you're committed to us or we're in your top three. We're going to be in Atlanta. Then, there's no expense to Georgia State. And they know, right?
Yeah.
Like they have to know what's going on here. And if they don't have a bunch of kids on visits, then, fair play and just, let the kid come, because frankly, usually the same Memphis and Georgia State are typically not recruiting the same kids. So it just gives you another chance to get in front of your kids and get kids in front of you. And, I don't know, is there a bump rule with college? Like if you see somebody, like I don't know recruiting rules, but the Memphis staff, can they even have incidental contact with a recruit that's on a Georgia State? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, hey.
Yeah, normally that the opportunity for that really doesn't happen because, Georgia State would keep the recruits,
Yeah.
obviously separate in a different area. Same thing with Memphis. Think about when Arkansas comes to play Memphis, there's going to be some kids that Arkansas will be like, hey, go to this Memphis game, check us out, but Memphis is not going to allow those kids to get close to anyone near the Arkansas State sideline. So same thing with Georgia State. They won't be anywhere close to the Memphis.
Yeah, and again, it's just a situation where typically they are not recruiting the same kid. Little Georgia State news ahead of this weekend's game. They apparently somehow TJ Finley, this will be his, I think, 6th college, still has eligibility, and he is enrolled and he is on the roster for Georgia State. TJ Finley, the well-traveled quarterback, Western Kentucky, Texas State. Where am I?
Dude has been on more teams. I mean, you just think about this for a second. Like, who's the quarterback? The bearded quarterback that played for every NFL team. Like, I swear, I can't remember his name, but like you see guys like that, right?
Fitzpatrick, is that who you're thinking of?
Fitzpatrick, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, this guy's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? He's on every team. Like, you turn around, he's playing somewhere else. And when you said his name, I was like, wait a minute, is that the guy from like 5 years ago? And like, yeah,
he started at LSU in 2020. He was at Auburn, Texas State, Western Kentucky, and now at Georgia State. 23 years old, from Ponchatoula, Louisiana. Well, Jeb, I don't know about that. I think he says if he was worth a damn, he wouldn't be year 8 at Georgia State. I don't know about this new vibe is just, I don't think you can tell how good a player is anymore based on that. But like, he's had some injury issues. I think he only played like 3 games at Texas State, but yeah, it has been a journey for him. But will he play? Is it a similar situation to what Cortez Bram, what Memphis was looking at with him? But here's the reality too, guys. Georgia State got smoked 63-7 by Mississippi on Saturday, and they had 69 whole passing yards. So I think, but if I were Christian Veilleux or Cam Brown at Georgia State, and I looked at that and I said, all right, well, they're calling in a ringer. They're calling in a 6th-year guy. What does that say about the position of the quarterback room at Georgia State when you're willing to go out and get a guy and say, all right, well, we know you've been here 5 days. He will play. I'm pretty confident to say that he will play. Now, how much he plays, who knows? That's, I don't pretend to know, but I think that says a lot about that quarterback room that you would say, all right, we're week 2. We need to go get somebody that can actually function as a quarterback.
Yeah, those quarterbacks on Georgia State are not very accurate. So they need all the help they can get.
12 of 25, which is a 48-yard completion percentage for 69 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Now, as far as players that could hurt Memphis, they have an outstanding wide receiver. Of course, they're coached on, let me kind of go through this part, by Dell McGee, who comes over from Georgia. This is his 2nd year. He was the running game coordinator there, but he's got Hugh Jackson as his offensive coordinator. Travis Pearson is his defensive coordinator. Damian Craig coaches wide receivers. Enrique Davis coaches running back. So a lot of talent on that coaching staff. Carter Blunt, who's their associate head coach and also special teams coordinator. So a lot of talent on that staff. And then, they've got a couple guys on the offensive side of the ball. I just lost his name. It's he's a wide receiver. And now I can't believe I just completely whiffed on it. Hurst.
Oh, Hurst.
Hurst. Coach Silverfield mentioned him, and he said this may be one of the best defensive lines that we play this year. Now, some of that's probably coach speak, but in this transfer era, Larry, there's talent everywhere. Everybody's got dudes that can play, and this is a game I think Memphis does have to focus. They do have to have some focus in this game.
Well, you're going to have to scheme around some players in this game, right? I mean, you were just better at more or less every position last week, right? I mean, this week you're going to have spots where you're going to have to, okay, up front we may have to scheme against this guy, or we may have to put an extra blocker here to keep Lewis from being pressured the whole game. And this is where it is different. You are stepping up in talent. How much of a step that is, we can argue, but the bottom line is it is better. You got better players, better coaches, and that's no knock on UTC. But you've just got there's a lot of talent, and to your point, it used to be that a kid would go to a school, and even if he sat on the bench, he just stayed there, right? I mean, you couldn't go. Now, if a kid goes to Georgia or Georgia Tech, and you're getting recruited over, he can go to Georgia State, and he'll probably get be on the 2 deep if he's good, right? And that's what you're talking about. So there's talent everywhere. It's just a matter of can you get a team together? See, what we were praising earlier is that our coaches took 11 guys that some of them were on other teams last year, right? And they made a football team out of them. No, not a lot. We had a lot of guys that were still here. But my point is, every year you're having to bring guys in and incorporate them. And, you got a new staff here. You got a lot of new coaches here. Damian Craig. I mean, everybody remembers a lot of people. I remember Damian Craig. And Hugh Jackson was obviously the coach of the Bengals for a while. I mean, there's just a lot of talent here on the coaching staff. Can they put a team together? And we'll see. We'll see. They certainly struggled against a really talented Ole Miss team last week.
Well, a lot of people are going to struggle against Mississippi this year, I think. And actually, oddly enough, their leading rusher, Georgia State's leading rusher, Rashad Amos, was a Memphis Tiger for 5 months. He signed with Memphis in December 1st of 24 and transferred out May 18th of 24 after spring practice. He kind of saw the writing on the wall, and he was the leading rusher for Georgia State last week, 9 carries for 68 yards. Now they ran the ball 5.5 yards a carry against a pretty good upper tier SEC defense, 35 carries, 191 yards. But I think, Brian, that sort of plays into the strength of the Memphis defense. Is if you want to try to line up and run the ball, that's fine. We're going to make it incredibly difficult on you to do so.
Yeah, and I think Georgia State will try to run the ball because, Amos, I mean, he, before he got to Memphis, he was at Miami of Ohio, where he rushed for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. So, as you were mentioning before, I mean, there's talent there. He's definitely, a talented back, but I just think that, the Memphis defensive line, which is, in my opinion, much improved, will be able to handle it.
Yeah, and Amos is also an Atlanta guy. He was actually he's been on Memphis's roster. He's been on Miami,
South Carolina.
Ohio, South Carolina. Another guy now at Georgia State, finishing things out. So, he was only here for a short time, but maybe he feels like he has something to prove, and that can go one of two ways when you're a player, right? That you can either be highly motivated and go out and perform at the highest level, or you can press. You can go out and you can really, really press and really try to, as the kids say, you can try to do too much. And, it's going to be important for him to kind of rein that in. But I think the big problem Georgia State is going to have with Memphis is speed and just, athletes across the board. You know, if Memphis has 10, 11 guys catching passes on Saturday, that's a really good recipe for a big Memphis win, I think. It can't all fall on one guy. I think that's where, if Memphis were to get in a little bit of trouble, that would be it. It can't just fall on one guy. They've got to continue to spread the ball around. Obviously, Greg DeWosier is going to be a factor. If he plays or not, that kind of determines, I think, how the game goes in terms of just the overall flow. I didn't see, is it Memphis a 14-point favorite, Brian? I didn't see the BetMGM
Oh yeah,
line.
I didn't check.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, I think Memphis is going to be a couple touchdown favorite at the very minimum.
Should be more than that, honestly.
But, and I know people may say whatever they want to say about this, but when you go into these awkward places to play where the field is positioned kind of funny, so the press box is a lot further away or a lot closer than you used to, your sideline is a lot further away or a lot closer than you're used to, your views are different, like everything is different. So you think about that, and my comparison is playing basketball at Vanderbilt, where the benches are on the baselines and not on the sidelines. So I haven't seen the configuration, but I'm sure it's going to be awkward because you're in a former baseball facility that has now been repurposed, and they've done a really nice job from what I've seen. The lighting's going to be weird, like everything's going to be weird. It's a night game. How does the wind move, whatever wind there is? How is it moving in the stadium versus your traditional bowl? So it's one of those things where weird things can happen. I just feel like Memphis is pretty significantly better than Georgia State, and you don't have the danger you're going to have that we'll talk about next week. I really doubt Memphis is looking past Georgia State to look for Troy. Like and that's no offense to the fine people of Troy, Alabama, fine school down there. Looking forward to visiting with them again. But
are you really? Are you really?
I'm looking forward to visiting with them. They have some very nice people that
Sure.
run the Troy version of Tiger Sports Report, and the staff was exceptionally nice. So I don't really have anything bad to say other than got to go to Troy, but that's next week. But I don't think you're going to have the look ahead, Brian. So I feel like this is a game that is going to kind of be straight up. You know, other than the weirdness of the conditions, you're just lining up the guy across from you, and you just got to play assignment football.
Yeah, I mean, they'll get Memphis's full attention, and it's another, I guess a game where Memphis can just really hone in on the fundamentals of football. Do your job. I don't think they're really going to show much again. So yeah, just I'm still expecting a beatdown, but yeah, no trick plays, nothing out of the ordinary. I think it'd be roughly the same play calling that we saw against Chattanooga. Quite honestly.
So one of the things I will say, like, if for those of you who have not been to Atlanta recently, it's extremely easy to get there now. If you haven't made the drive in a while, Interstate 22, if you haven't been to Birmingham, a lot of people have, but if you haven't been to Birmingham, Interstate 22 is amazing. And just hop on 22, and from my house to Atlanta, which used to take 6.5 hours, is now a 5-hour easily. I can be there in 5 hours. I do that. I've done that probably 4 or 5 times this year already. Let's start with that. The stadium is not, if you've ever been there, it's not in the greatest part of town. Okay. It's not. It's just south of downtown Atlanta. But having said that, this is an easy game to go to and really just enjoy yourself. Atlanta is a cool town. There's lots of cool things to do. It'll be a Saturday after the game. There'll be a lot of stuff for you to go do if you want to, right? So just go enjoy yourself and have a good time. And I agree with you, Brian. I don't see any scenario with this. I don't know about a beatdown, but this should be a comfortable win. Very similar, probably, I would think, to the Troy game here last year, where it's pretty comfortable and we're just sort of coasting there in the fourth quarter.
Memphis is minus 13.5. The over-under is 56.5. If I were a betting man, I would take Memphis to cover and take the under. That's just, just from me to you, just free advice. Take it, it's worth what you're paying for it. Free advice, but 13.5 on BetMGM, who is the official betting partner of On3.
Yep.
And 56.5 is the total. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. I'm actually, Jeb, it's funny you say Kennesaw. That is exactly where I'm staying. I'm going down. I've got several friends, as you would expect, that live in the Atlanta area, and I'm actually going to have dinner with one of them on Friday, and then lunch with another one on Saturday, and then I'm staying up in Kennesaw, which is about 25 minutes from the stadium, and then hightailing it back home on Sunday morning. But I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my first trip to Turner Field. The last time I was in Atlanta, I was supposed to go to a Braves game there, but something happened. It got rained out or something, so I didn't get to go. So looking forward to seeing it. As Mike said, Memphis was supposed to open Center Park Stadium in 2017. So, and I do want to shout out, how about the length of the game on Saturday? 3 hours and 1 minute. John Maddox stamp of approval. Doesn't get much better than that. All right. So let's see. So 6 p.m. I think kickoff's like 6:07. This will be on ESPN Plus again. Let me see if I can pull the official thing back up here. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the game notes here, and I'm having as much success as it sounds like I'm having. Let's see. All right. Yeah, the refs were hot too. Everybody was ready to get out of town. So the play-by-play and analyst has not yet been unveiled. It will be on ESPN Plus. Memphis and Georgia State have played one time before, of course, and that was in 2018 here when Memphis won 59-22. So we will look at the Center Park Stadium scoreboard at 9:04 Central Time. Larry,
sure.
And that scoreboard will say,
it's going to say 31-10, and Memphis should, and it might be worse than that, but I just don't see how Georgia State is going to consistently move the ball on us. I just don't.
Brian?
To me, it's going to be a beatdown, but I do think Memphis will slip up and allow some points in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to go Memphis 38-0 until the fourth quarter, where Georgia State scores 13. Final score, Memphis 38-13.
So you're both hitting the under.
Yep.
You know what? It worked this week, 45-10. And by the way, congratulations to you. Just 3 points off. You had 42-10 and count on special teams to screw something up and kick that extra field goal. But I think 45-10. This just feels like that. But what I think might happen this week is Georgia State might come out blazing. I think kind of the opposite, Brian, of what you're talking about. Maybe they come out and they get a quick touchdown. They get something cheap, or they just get a touchdown. And then once Memphis settles in, it just kind of steamrolls from there. So week one
predictions.
Oh yeah, all right. Yeah, let's do that, Brian. We'll start with you since you brought that up.
Yeah, bold prediction. I'm going to say, because I don't think it's happened in a while, so I'm just going to throw something crazy out there that probably won't happen. But I'm going to say Ryan Silverfield gets a flag. Just throwing it out there. He gets hot. Maybe the refs aren't doing what they're supposed to. He runs his mouth a little bit too much. I don't know if he's ever been flagged.
He hasn't. His personality is not as such, I would think.
There's a first time for everything. Come on, Silverfield, if you're watching, come on. Get the flag and just point to the camera so I know it's for me.
That's right. Larry, do you have a bold prediction?
We are going to score 2 defensive touchdowns this week.
I think Memphis has a touchdown of more than 80 yards. Yeah, maybe a pass, it may be a kick return, but I think they will have a touchdown of more than 80 yards. Jeb is going to stick with what works. Sutton Smith returning a kickoff back for a touchdown, but I think Memphis has a big play this week. I feel like this is a spot where, when it could be a fluke play like, the Ole Miss game that Memphis won 37-24, and they Paxton had to throw off his back foot, and the ball got tipped up in the air, and one of the Memphis receivers caught it, and it was like a 90-yard touchdown. I think this may be the type of game where you just get a big fluke play like that in your favor. Y'all that want Ryan to like throw headsets and get penalties, y'all, that's just not who this man is. And
just
and
once, just give it to me
now.
once.
I mean, he's got 2 6-month-olds at home. He's not.
He might. No. He might. He's got
Just wait till they become toddlers or teenagers. We might see some headset throwing.
When you got newborns like that, like you're so tired. Like everybody just no. Yeah.
Please don't throw headsets. Don't get flags. That's not. It's so funny because like that is not his personality. Yeah. Like that's the antithesis of his personality.
That's why it's a bold prediction. Because I was going to go, Lewis have a throwing touchdown, running touchdown, but that's not bold. That's going to be expected. So I was like, man, I just had to come something on the spot, and I'm like, yeah, let's just go crazy.
And Jeb brings up Justin Fuente. That's how I knew, as they say in Memphis, that Justin was with us. That game against UT Martin when he got that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty and got his money's worth for it. That's kind of how I knew he was with us. Like he was the right guy for the job, as weird as that sounds. But Ryan, please don't throw headsets. Don't get penalties. Just let's hope things go the way they're supposed to. But if you do,
get your money's worth.
Yes.
If you're going to do it, go all out.
That's right. Go all in.
Man, go get you some.
Yeah, go all in. All right. So before this gets even more out of hand, for the best co-hosts in all the land, Larry Marley and Brian Moss, this is John Maddox signing off and saying we will see everybody next week and hope to see some of you in Atlanta this week.